Chapter 6. A Storm at Sea. The wind continued to pick up all that day and into the next morning. By daylight, the captain, who could never seem to sleep well in his tossing bunk in strong winds, was on deck calling for all hands to reduce sail. The crew, expecting the call, came on deck in their foul weather gear and jumped into the rigging. They lowered the topsails into the working tops. The topmen quickly furled the high sails, adding extra gaskets against the strong winds. Back on deck, the crew lowered and furled the mizzen sail. "We need to strike that sprit sail," Captain Villiers called to the mate, Godfrey Wicksteed, in the rising wind. The sprit sail hung off the bowsprit out over the water in front of the ship. The only way to reach the sail was to climb out the steeply pitched bowsprit and hang over the front of the sprit yard. To Felix, watching from the boatswain's cabin in the forecastle, it seemed too dangerous to even attempt. The strong wind and blowing sea foam kept Felix crouched just inside the door. "I won't order men out on that yard, but let's see if we have any volunteers." The captain knew if someone were to fall into the wild sea, it would be almost impossible to turn the ship around to look for him. The second mate, Joe Lacey, one of the best climbers on the ship, volunteered. Barrick Watson and Andy Lindsay went with them. The four men tied lines to their waists and made their way out onto the widely pitching bowsprit. Several times, one or another of the men lost his footing but managed to hold on to the lifelines. The ship plunged up and down into the waves. Every sixth or seventh wave, the men had to hold on as they dipped completely underwater. Joe and Mr. Small on one side of the yard, and Barrick and Andy on the other, worked steadily. Finally, they had the sail under control. The crew cheered as the men came back to the deck. Felix meowed as mightily as any of the rest. With the ship snugged down for the storm, there was nothing left to do on deck. All hands went below to dry off and warm up. Still on deck, the captain and Warwick watched in wonder as the little ship bobbed along in the rough weather. Those 17th century shipwrights knew what they were doing when they built these ships. The high stern keeps the bow facing the wind, and the big wide bow rides up and over the waves with ease, the captain said. "Just imagine the press if we did have trouble in a big storm. I can see it now," Warwick gestured. "Plucky Brits determined to bring gift ship to America. We'd have quite a story to tell then, wouldn't you say, Captain?" "Warwick, let's get below with the others. I've had enough of this wind for now." Felix was below with the other crewmen when Captain Villiers and Warwick came below. Felix couldn't remember the last time he saw the captain in this part of the ship. He had learned that the officers and other important men lived in the stern of the ship and seldom ventured below to where the common sailors lived. "Men," Captain Villiers began, "you are all to be commended for your bravery in this storm, especially you four who went out on the bowsprit. I have arranged with the cook to provide extra food for everyone's meal tonight, and a tot of rum all around. Huzzah! Let's hear it for Joe, Andy, Barrick, and Mr. Small. Huzzah!" The crew broke into a cheer and then thanked the captain. Felix, not to be left out, meowed again and again. Captain Villiers added, "See to it that our young cat gets an extra ration of milk. We'll be approaching Plymouth soon, and we want all hands looking their best."